This is video 3 of the glass bead game. Again, what this is a synthesis of all of the disciplines available to create a perfect reality and life. So what I listed today was a whole bunch of names, and these are the influences on my glass bead game, and I just want to go through some of these and talk about them. Alan Watts is the first one. Again, that is he talked a lot about Eastern mysticism, Zen, and Buddhism, which was the study of the self and reality. And that's really what the glass bead game is so much about. Plato is the second one listed. Plato talked a lot about his theory of forms and laws, the perfect forms that transcended the reality that we live in. So I think that was really interesting, and I think was supported potentially by some of the theories now that we're finding from Kurt Gödel, Immanuel Kant, and others that believe that the human mind could never comprehend reality in its entirety as human beings, because we're limited. That something outside of the limited world is the cause and the reason and the explanation for the reality that we live in. So that's why I find Plato so interesting. Hermann Hesse, who wrote the glass bead game, is one of my favorites. Again, tended towards the Eastern way of thinking. A lot of the characters in his book sought higher levels of consciousness. The Magister Ludi in the glass bead game, which stood for the master of the game. And as it turns out, the game, again, which was synthesizing all of the disciplines of philosophy and religion and science and art and the mind and so forth, as it turns out in reality, is really life and reality, that it is not a game. Parmenides, who was an actual person that Plato wrote about in his Parmenides, talked about the oneness of the universe, that it was one unchanging, immutable, eternal reality. And a lot of the book, Metaphysics of Being, evolved around the ideas of Parmenides, almost was an interpretation of Parmenides. Leo Buscaglia, he was a professor at USC in education, and started classes and seminars on love, and obtained a world following. It was amazing to him that we teach math and science and all these other things, but we don't teach the most important thing, and that is love. Zeno's in my glass bead game community. Again, going back to the paradoxes, the Achilles paradox, the dichotomy paradox, the stadium paradox, and just all the fact that those paradoxes are still not resolved today is just so interesting to me, even with the advances of calculus and science and logic and so forth. Ayn Rand believed in self-interest and self-perfection, and also believed in a secret society of members that she believed all the productive people in her Atlas Shrugged. So my House on a Hill glass bead game believes in this secret society of all these great minds to live in this blissful state of reality. And Ayn Rand also believed in that. She was against Eastern religions, however, because she equated that with coerced altruism, and some believe that that was a incorrect tie to those. But she was against Eastern mysticism because it was losing the self. She believed in the ego, and Eastern mysticism, Zen and Buddhism, believe in losing the self, the non-ego, as you approach your state of nirvana. Aristotle, I liked his metaphysics, and also his physics was very good. It was Ayn Rand's favorite. Aristotle reminded me a lot of Bertrand Russell's work on continuity and discreteness, and a lot of the physics got into that. So I really enjoyed the physics, in particular, his work called The Physics. Anaxagoras, I don't know a lot about other than one sentence, that everything is in everything, and that is just really an interesting statement. Ties into a holographic universe. Every piece of a holograph has its entirety in it, all of the information. So when you think of a finite set includes infinity within it, everything being within everything is kind of an interesting statement. And he said this like 500 BC. George Cantor studied infinity. We did a video on him. He believed that there was more than one infinity. Some infinities were larger than others. So a lot of that, there's paradoxes and amazing things that he came across. F.H. Bradley had a big influence on metaphysics of being. He wrote Appearance and Reality, believed and wanted to strive for an absolute, non-paradoxical truth and view of the world. I don't know if it's possible, given that we live in this relative world and we're limited, but that was his goal in his work, Appearance and Reality. George Berkeley believed in idealism, and to be is to be perceived, and this is so amazing because quantum mechanics bears that out with the collapse of the wave function. So that is just amazing that he was able to come up with that. And when you think of it, so much, if not all, of reality has to exist in a human mind. And as we've been discovering in the double slit experiment and the delayed choice experiment, the uniqueness of the mind, that it may have a special status within the universe. Rene Descartes believed that. Max Tegmark talked about that. Possibly even going back to Kurt Gödel, his incompleteness theorem, that within the universe you have space and time, and there's something outside of it that explains everything, and that is a provable fact in his theorem. And possibly this might be a mind or something else, maybe even tying into the yin and yang of being and non-being, and all of the opposites that are built into the yin and yang. Leibniz, again, it came up with the theory of calculus, along with Newton, but also his theory of monads, that they were dimensionless units as the foundation of reality, but that each monad was unique. And I thought that was so interesting when you think about what is the self and the foundation of reality, especially of the ego and non-ego and so forth, that he came up with the monads extensionless points, but that each one was unique, I thought was very interesting. Euclid, his first theorem or axiom, whatever it was, of a point is that which has no extension. We've talked so many times of how does a line get created if the foundation is an extensionless point. Democritus, I really enjoyed his writings. He was one of the first to write about atomism, and he talks about atomism and reality, but also talks about the void within it. So I find his writings very interesting. Rene Descartes, again, the mind-body problem. What was so awesome about his writings were that he came up with two substances, the material world, that which had extension, that which could be divided, and the mind, which was indestructible, eternal, and could not be divided into smaller pieces. So Rene Descartes, that mind-body problem is really getting to be one of my favorite positions, and a lot of modern philosophers, I think, put him down because they seem to tie it to religion and so forth. Stephen Hawking, who talks a lot about black holes and the Big Bang, obviously is awesome, is contributing today, and just wrote a book with Roger Penrose on space and time. John McTaggart wrote The Unreality of Time, and also wrote The Nature of Existence. He tried to prove logically that time could not exist. And so that was kind of similar to Zeno, who tried to prove that motion couldn't exist because it was against logic and mathematics. Alfred North Whitehead, of course, is in the glass bead game. Had similar views to the Eastern ways of thinking, wrote Process and Reality, again, study of reality, which Zen and Buddhism and Tao are the study of reality and self. Michelangelo, of course, is in my glass bead game community, just because his art is so beautiful. Sistine Chapel, the Pieta, Statue of David, and all of his works are just amazing. John Keats had the one phrase that I love, beauty is truth, truth is beauty. Given the limited nature of our minds and the way we are viewing the world in a limited manner, why does evil exist, and trying to explain the universe and so forth. Alan Watts might even agree with this. Beauty is truth, truth is beauty. Just enjoy the ride is the bottom line meaning of that. Lisa Randall believed in, or still talks about, and she just wrote a book, the many dimensions, the possibility of these underlying brains that may exist. She talks a lot about the CERN collider that's in process right now, trying to find these additional dimensions and further explanations of the universe, such as possibly string theory and other things. Another interesting thing about that is that Lisa Randall went to the same high school as Brian Greene, so just that in itself was an amazing thing. So I went through one row here so far of the glass bead game, and my community and what they contribute to this synthesis for me.